Welcome to United Way of Frederick County's 2001 Virtual Leadership Bring Your Own Breakfast. My name is Mike McLane, the board chair for United Way of Frederick County. When designing this morning's program, we wanted to address the key issues our community is facing as the pandemic continues. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 1 in 3 households in Frederick County struggled to afford basic needs such as housing, transportation, and childcare. We'll start our program today by reviewing the results of our recently conducted COVID-19 impact survey. That shows this number has increased substantially throughout the pandemic. We'll then hear our guidance from the health department on COVID vaccines for employers before sharing how working together to support our community is a great way to engage employees while helping Frederick families in need. Before we move on to hear from our wonderful speakers, it is important to share United Way of Frederick County's commitment to fighting for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community. We are reaffirming our commitment to value the visible and invisible qualities that make each person who they are. We strive to include diversity, equity, and inclusion practices at the center of our daily work. We welcome that every person brings unique perspective and experience to advance our mission. I'm so proud to be part of this team and want to thank them for their extraordinary dedication to improving the lives of every individual in our community. Thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules to join us today. I'll now hand it over to Ken Oldham, United Way of Frederick County's President and CEO. Enjoy the program.
Thank you, Mike. Your leadership as board chair has been incredible, and we really so appreciate your commitment to the community. I'm so glad that everybody on this call has joined us today. We're just delighted to have you here today, even as we transition this from an in-person event back to virtual. I think we were all disappointed not to see you all in person, but at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. And we thank you for joining us virtually again instead. Hopefully by very soon, we'll be at in-person events. I'd like now to introduce Stacey Collins, who is here today representing PNC Bank. We are absolutely thrilled that PNC Bank is our sponsor for this event. Stacey has worked in several departments throughout her 30-year banking career, but comes to us today as the Vice President and Assistant Director of Client and Community Relations for the Greater Washington area. Stacey is actively involved in the Frederick community, serving on several local committees with Hood College, the Community Foundation of Frederick County, Frederick Nonprofit Summit, and the Frederick Speaker Series. Her passion for giving back shines through as she regionally leads PNC's workplace giving campaign, as well as PNC's signature philanthropic program, Grow Up Great, a program designed to prepare children under 5 for success in school. On a personal note, I have the opportunity and pleasure of working with Stacey on a regular basis, and I absolutely enjoy every moment. Stacey, we're delighted to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us all for our virtual breakfast. This is not how we were planning to bring you together this morning, but if I have learned anything at all over the last year and a half, it is to be flexible and stay focused on the end goal. And we still have to get things done. When we were talking about this morning's event, Erin asked that I share a little bit about PNC's workplace campaign with you. The work the United Way does is critical to our communities every year, not just this year. And that's why PNC invests in the United Way through both the PNC Foundation and by hosting a workplace campaign across the entire company every year. I have personally been a part of my bank's workplace campaign in some way for the past 30 years. And for the last few years, it has been my role to serve as our workplace campaign market leader in this region. While it looks a little different last year, and we're going to continue in virtual campaign mode this year, the end goal is still the same. Find a way to help employees connect with the impact our United Way has locally, because that's what it's about, impact. Help our employees hear, see, and feel what it means to make a difference right here where we all live, work, and play. At PNC, here's just a few examples of what that means for us for a campaign. It's a chance to hear directly from those who do the work and take care of our communities with lunch and learns. Last year, we hosted a virtual poverty simulation, and also hearing from our leaders who share why they give. My ask of you today, please make sure that every one of your colleagues has the opportunity to learn more about the impact the United Way has right here in our own backyard, and has the chance to make a pledge. We can do this. We can help our United Way meet its goal this year by doing it together. Thanks for being here. And now it is my honor to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Keith Harris. Dr. Harris serves as the Executive Director of Accelerating Achievement and Equity for Frederick County Public Schools, works with several departments in the school system to ensure that each and every student has the opportunity to become an empowered learner. Along with his work for the school system, Dr. Harris also serves on the United Way of Frederick County's Board of Directors as the chair of the Advocacy Committee. Through the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Harris and the Advocacy Committee focused their efforts on ways to support ALICE households through greater awareness, programs, and collaborations. His work in the schools and community has allowed him to see the disproportionate impact of COVID on ALICE families in Frederick County. Today, he will share the findings of COVID-19 impact survey recently released by the United Way of Frederick County. The floor is yours, Dr. Harris.
Thank you so much, Stacey, and good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Keith Harris, and I'm chair of the Advocacy Committee for the United Way of Frederick County. The Advocacy Committee is responsible for supporting ALICE by building awareness and then also developing policy recommendations to support the health, education, financial stability of every person in our community. Now, many of you know what ALICE stands for. We can go to the next slide. Many of you know what ALICE stands for. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Yet Employed. ALICE is an analysis of Frederick County households who have insufficient income to offset a basic cost of living. These families are families who, in normal conditions, they have to make tough decisions every day between basic necessities: housing, health, food, medical care, and the list goes on. Our information on ALICE provides critical information about how financial stability is spread across Frederick County demographics. The ALICE report has Frederick County data. Our next report is to be released in 2022. In the meantime, COVID-19 impact survey, it was recently released to provide us with a snapshot of the current ALICE impact during the pandemic. And so as you see here by this chart, by adding 6% below the federal poverty line and 31% above poverty, but below the basic cost of living, we know that 37% of Frederick County households represent ALICE. Now, the ALICE report shows, is on many different demographics. And so if we can go to that next slide there. So the ALICE report on many different demographics, including geographic area, race, and age. And this chart that you're seeing analyzes ALICE by family makeup. Unfortunately, as you see, 79% of single mothers represent ALICE. Now on the next slide, the full Alice report was generated in 2020 using the highest quality data in 2018. But because COVID-19 came on so suddenly, the data has not yet had time to catch up. As such, the COVID-19 impact survey is designed to provide data now while the full report is due for release in the fall of 2022. Now, with the COVID impact survey, it will show a survey of Alice and non-Alice households throughout Maryland between the periods of March through April, as you see there. In Frederick County, over 580 families, households were surveyed, and Frederick County represented the highest responding jurisdiction in Maryland. And this survey will provide some important insights into the issues households in Frederick County are facing during this time of profound need. The COVID-19 impact survey looked at concerns of all households. And as you see here, by far the largest concern of households was getting sick. Mental health issues are a larger concern now more than ever before. But since this chart represents all households, it is important for us to take a look at the differences between Alice and non-Alice households. COVID illness, mental health issues, and child care, as you see, are fairly even. However, the issues of access to food, basic household necessities, debt, and employment issues are borne much more heavily by Alice households. Now, a look at food access is particularly heartbreaking. A full 34% of Alice households have concerns about having enough food, while 7% of non-Alice had that same concern. And so this is a perfect example of the stark difference between Alice and non-Alice households. Now, as we continue to take a look again at some of the differences here, I want to point out, just highlight on this next chart, looking again at food access. As we take a look at that, 30% of Alice households compared to 4% of non-Alice have sought resources from a food pantry. Now, our food providing nonprofit partners, I'm sure they can acknowledge and attest that many families receiving food were unsure of the system because, again, they've never had to use this resource before. As we continue, Alice households were 23% more likely to apply for government assistance. Now, this does not include government assistance that was automatic, like stimulus checks. It serves to note that non-Alice households, that Alice households are eligible for government assistance because most government programs use the federal poverty line as an eligible criteria. As such, there's a lot of non-Alice households that are not eligible. What this means, however, is that many Alice households, even though they don't meet the basic cost of living, they don't have access to federal assistance, even though COVID has had devastating impacts disproportionately on Alice households. And so just wanted to share a little bit about the COVID impact as we've seen on Alice households compared to non-Alice households. And now I'd like to introduce two fantastic speakers from the Frederick County Health Department who have been working diligently to fight to keep our community safe. Shawn Dennison serves as the Public Affairs Officer with Frederick County Health Department's COVID Division. His 30+ years of public service in the disability community and outstanding commitment to the health of our community have made him an incredible asset to Frederick County throughout this pandemic. He's focused his outreach on underserved communities with an emphasis on inclusion, equity, and the removal of barriers to healthcare. Joining Shawn from the health department is Danielle Haskins. And so at this time, Shawn, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. You know, it's always so nice when you do the introductions. You know, it's great. Yes, I'm sorry to let the trend go down here, Rick, but I'm not an LFC graduate, but I think it sounds like something that I'd like to be a part of if I'm not too old for it. Anyway, thank you so much for having Danielle and me at this. We have been churning, working diligently for what seems like, I don't know, it's probably just 18 months, but it seems like a number of years. I wanted to give just a short like update of where we are, because if anybody's ever been on any call with the health department, we always like to start with data. So Frederick County, where are we right now? As of yesterday, we have about, I think we're hovering right around 61% of of all of our residents fully vaccinated, and that's extraordinary. Keeps us in about 4th place in the state, behind, I believe it's Howard, Montgomery, Talbot, which is always the weird outlier, nothing against Talbot, and then Frederick County. And then a couple of things that we've noted about the data when you see the data with Frederick County, being that we have, we border, not that other counties don't, but that we border Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and to a certain degree, Virginia. We still have not gotten data use agreements from those other states to show if any of our residents have been vaccinated in other areas, because we're pretty certain, especially as it relates to the business community, and I'll get to that, many of our residents were vaccinated in other states, other areas. If they were vaccinated in other counties, in Maryland, we do get that data. But if they were vaccinated in other states, we're still working on how to get that. Our slide, very simple. We started pretty early on in the efforts with our mantra of engagement, listening, responding, and repeating that process. One of the big things that Dr. Brookmeyer has imparted with us is that once you engage, once you listen, once you respond, keep doing that. One time through isn't enough. You have to keep, when it comes to information, you have to keep the engagement going. That's necessary. You can't go one and done. So we really, Danielle, you can attest, we follow that mantra as best as possible throughout.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And I think moving on with that, the success we had would not have been possible without the partnerships we have with the community organizations, the faith organizations, and really just being able to support them and their efforts, really, and reaching out to the community who they know, who they love and are familiar with, and they have the trust of the community. So we're able to have conversations with both community members who are new and unfamiliar to us, but through those leaders that have just such a huge impact to everyone in Frederick County.
That is so true. And when you talk about partners, Also, very early on, the United Way reached out. We had, kind of met in the middle and just have been an outstanding partner throughout. The census team that the United Way put together have been, the makeup of that team, both demographically, the community leaders, where they are in the county, regionally, just the outstanding partners in being able to coordinate this effort. So one of the things I absolutely love about Frederick County, being somewhat of a native, is this very big, small town feel. And we've seen it throughout. So as it relates to the business community, very early on, as many of you are familiar, I'm sure, I'll just talk about the vaccines first. Were eligibility groupings, and everybody was trying to figure out, they were pretty vague. What do we do? Do we qualify? I know we're not USPS, but we do work for a shipping company, just trying to solve those little issues and being able to coordinate and being able to recommend what to do, because we were hearing from various businesses, depending on the type of work they do, where should I go? So very early on, again, we put together a small business leadership team with the Chamber of Commerce, the Frederick County OED, the Frederick City DED, Downtown Frederick Partnership, and I think I have, then it was Visit Frederick too, to kind of get a team together that were business leaders, people, or representatives of organizations that could kind of help us spread that message. And on behalf of the health department, we appreciate all those efforts to help get that information to the people that you support and serve. So that's as it relates again to vaccinations and such. And then also, and Danielle will talk a lot more about this, is just trying to be as absolutely accessible as possible. And I know that it's not entirely healthy to have your phone on 24/7, and answer as many calls as you can and check your email constantly and things like that. But, considering the circumstances where we are, where we were, that was a way that Danielle and I handled it from the beginning, was, try to be as accessible, because if, you have to, because that people's hours, the days of work, as it relates to everything, you'll hear with vaccines and testing, just being accessible was extremely important. Danielle, do you want to talk about testing and such, and how vaccines have piggybacked on your efforts?
Absolutely. So with this rapidly evolving situation, as Shawn noted, it's so important that we are just accessible to not only partners who we're working with, but also just general community members that may have questions, that are looking for that just one last question to get answered. And we're so happy that we're able to be a part of that. Early on, both business community and community in general alike, understanding that access and time is one of our biggest commodities now. So we're, even though we may not be physically in the workplace, or we've taken some time away for some of us, we're working even more because of the engagement with virtual meetings. I feel like, I don't know about you, but there have been more meetings virtually than I've had when we were in person. So just scheduling that time out to get tested, or to find out where to get tested, and results. I know we can all remember back to last year when results were taking over a week. So really looking at how can we partner with not only the organizations in our community, but also at the state level, looking at different labs, and what can we do to provide the best service that we can to our community. So we early on with testing looked at satellite locations and making sure that we're spreading the resources for COVID-19 testing throughout the community, with pop-up locations in Thurmont, Emmitsburg, Brunswick, throughout the city. As Shawn mentioned, data-driven, making sure we're looking at what communities are testing positive at a higher rate, making sure we're able to get testing right into that community. And then continuing that on with vaccinations as well, looking at the uptake of vaccinations and looking at zip codes, very granular data, looking at what zip codes have what percentage, looking at different age groups and demographic groups, and making sure that we are being culturally sensitive to different questions and different thoughts when we are scheduling, the locations where we are having on-site vaccinations or testing. So equity and accessibility, I think, really has been the driver from the beginning, from June. I know Shawn and I both were brought on specifically for COVID, the COVID response. And I think that's allowed us to focus in on this task. I know there's so much that relates to it. Not only testing and vaccination, but also having, the task of contacting some people who are testing positive and making sure that we're able to refer to wonderful partners like the United Way or the Religious Coalition. We're looking for rental assistance, when we're looking for rides to vaccination clinics, and kind of being that go-between from the resources to the community members who are looking for those resources. And again, with the mantra of engage, listen, respond, repeat, that relationship building is, Shawn mentioned the small, how'd you call it? The small town.
Big small town.
Big small town. And that, that really is, I'm not from Frederick, I'm not a native, unfortunately. I love Frederick. I grew up just outside in Gaithersburg. But it really is, and the amount of connection that is here for being the largest landmass, no matter where you go, somebody in the town you are. The relationships that have already been built allowed us to leverage some of that, but also moving forward, I think this has kind of been a blessing in disguise, where we're able to continue the existing relationships. We've made a lot of new relationships, and just being able to, again, support everyone else in what they want to do, because really everyone in the community has stepped up. All of the organizations we've talked with and worked with have stepped up and done more than their fair share. And really, they've allowed us to just support them in their efforts, whether it be different town halls that were hosted by churches, the events, the pop-up clinics are hosted by the organizations, and we just simply supply the people. They are there with messaging, with the marketing to get the information out, and to be the face that's there on the day of. So it really has been a blessing to be able to meet all the people that I have, and continue to support this effort, because we're not quite out of the woods yet. But being sensitive also to the really the valid concerns and questions that people have, and making sure that we're not inadvertently placing stigma on people who maybe weren't there, at the same times we were, in terms of vaccinations, but listening to their questions, getting answers to their questions, and providing access to people who, we're neither one of us are doctors, but providing access to people who may have, those technical experiences and the subject matter experts in that relate to their questions. So that we can share that, trusted, accurate, and timely information. There's so many things. Actually, just this last week, we had a new question on a myth of the safety of COVID testing swabs because of the way they're cleaned. And I can't tell you how fast these things spin, and this is coming from not only people who are, maybe not be involved, but this actually came from people who are involved in the response regularly. So, we know that there is, it's healthy to ask questions, to do your research, to look into, what we're doing. And we want to continue that throughout this response, with also making sure that we're able to, curb any of those misinformation campaigns that we unfortunately run into. So with the business community, we are able to provide on-site vaccinations just the same as, with some of the pop-ups, that working directly with organizations that have, I think, started off, Shawn, correct me if I'm wrong, started off with some of the larger employers in the county.
Focus between, and Frederick Health Hospital is outstanding. The employer solutions. So, you know, it's again goes to show you the coordination in Frederick County has been extraordinary. We have to wrap up shortly here,
Yes.
Danielle, because much like most of us at the health department, we can talk a lot.
Absolutely. And
Hey, before and Danielle, you know, please add on. I just want to thank everybody on this call and everybody in the community that have just been outstanding partners with us. I love this place, so I love seeing everybody healthy and safe, and can't say enough about the community. It makes me very proud.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting us. And I took the words out of my mouth. So I want to echo, thank you so much. I look forward to continuing to collaborate with everyone, with all of the organizations, and bring our community home.
Thank you so much, Shawn and Danielle, for joining us this morning and for your commitment to the safety of our community, and also for your work with the rideshare program. Ken will be touching a little bit more on that later on in the program, but just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work with that. And with that, I'd like to introduce first myself. My name is Erin Lawson, and I am the Manager of Resource Development here. I am the newest member of the United Way of Frederick County team, and so honored to be on the team and excited to be working hard for the community. But now enough about me. I'll be popping back on later. I'd like to introduce our next duo. We have Don Moody and Reverend Roger Wilmer here with us this morning. Just a little bit about them. Reverend Roger Wilmer serves currently as the Director of Pastoral and Spiritual Care at Frederick Health Hospital, bringing almost 20 years of chaplaincy care with him. Prior to joining the Frederick Health team, Reverend Wilmer worked as the campus chaplain at Providence Place Senior Living up in Chambersburg. You may also recognize him from St. James AME Church in Chambersburg, where he leads worship services and provides counseling as the pastor there. He's also joined by Don Moody, the General Manager of Support Services at Frederick Health Hospital. And Don is a former Marine and a business owner of 18 years. Along with his role at Frederick Health, he has also served as the resident pastor at Creekside Senior Living for the past 14 years. And if that wasn't enough, he has also volunteered his time for the last 8 years as a preacher at the Frederick Rescue Mission and Edenton Retirement Community. We are so honored to have both of these gentlemen with us today. And I am just going to turn their screen on real quick and they will take it away.
Hi, good morning, everybody. And I want to just thank the United Way for giving us the opportunity to share. And I have a message this morning that I'd like to communicate, which is titled, I've Given My Last. But before I can actually get to that, there's a foundation that I want to talk about, which is the importance of community commitment. And especially when it relates as far as the United Way is concerned. They have an annual giving campaign. They have an annual Stuff the Bus. And these are ways that we're able to actually participate and do something positive for the community. The message that I give my staff and my team here at Frederick Health, and when I'm out in the community, is to participate regardless of your life status. Participate. Whether you're at the rescue mission, you may not have any money, but you know what you do have? You have some time. And what's interesting is usually I see people that have money, they may not have the time. Well, then that's your role then. Your role to help and participate in the community is to go ahead and give. Well, then also there's people that may not have a whole lot of money, but then usually those folks have time. So you're able to give regardless of life status. And again, I want to encourage everybody on this call, especially as leaders, to cascade that message down to all the folks that you have within your sphere of influence, that they can be part of the annual giving campaign, whether it's actual money that they're giving, or it's even their time to help behind the scenes to put things together. And of course, the annual Stuff the Bus, which we just walked out of. I just want to remind everybody that our kids are watching us. They're watching us. They're going to end up being a product of their environment because they're watching, they're going to live what they actually see. And that reminds me of a story in my life. And This revolves around, it takes a village to raise a child, but a product of my environment. And I was fortunate to be adopted, and my adopted parents solely believed in community service. They said there's no higher way to live your life than to give your life to the community. I actually, even the male that was a father figure in my life, he used to repeat the President Kennedy often. He'd say to me, it's not what you're going to get from your country, it's what you're going to do for your country. And I ended up in the Marine Corps because he said, until you serve in military, this ain't your country. And so I've got to thank him for that. And it was a good experience. But as far as a product of my environment, let me give you an example. I had the fortunate ability to live in upstate New York from this family that adopted me. And as a teenager, they said, you're going to work this summer. And of course I said, that's great. I'm going to be making some money. That's super. This is great. And they said, wait a minute. No, we're not talking about money. You're going to go help Teresa, who owns a farm. And she's elderly and she doesn't have the money for laborers. And you're young and you're energetic. And so that's where you're going to go. And so from sun up to sundown, because you know how farms are, 7 days a week in the summertime, I learned to work and commit myself and not get paid. And so what that taught me was, and it made a difference in her life. And so I learned about commitment, and I learned about working and not looking for something. Every time I do something, I have to have my hand out. That's not where it's at, especially as leaders. We should be giving because we have talents and abilities. We should be sharing our gifts. I also want to point out, as far as this, a child is a child of everyone. Praise God, my wife, we have a little boy, and she was getting him ready for the bus. This was in the winter time, and I'm taking you back a couple years. But as she was getting him ready, and I want to, in your mind's eye, I want you to see this picture with my wife, loving this little boy that, we have taken on as a responsibility. And she was lotioning his skin because it's the winter time, and she puts on his knit hat, and he has this winter coat, and she puts the hood on and she ties it, nice and tight so that it won't blow off and he'll stay warm, and he has the knit gloves on. And then when all that's done, she looks at him and those innocent eyes are looking at her, and she gives him a big hug and a kiss. And you can just feel the warmth and love from that experience that child is actually receiving at that moment. And so as my wife now starts taking the child out to the bus stop, she sees a child at the bus stop, a few years older in age, at the bus stop though, with a windbreaker on in the middle of winter, no hat, no gloves, and no winter coat. Now there's your defining moment for a product of your environment, and a child is a child of everyone. My child was good to go. Good, I did my job, right? No, look at what's going on in my community. And that relates to the annual giving campaign. That relates to the annual Stuff the Bus. What's going on in my community? Were we going to walk past a child that didn't have a winter coat because my child was taken care of? Not as a leader. My wife took that child to Burlington that same morning and bought that child a coat. Now, let me point something out to you. Remember, our kids are watching us, all right? That same child, who's now a young adult, she visits us regularly to check to see how we're doing now. Praise the Lord for that. She's checking on us now. Remember, the kids are our future. And so the fact that we were able to stuff the bus and help educate the children that will eventually be running this county. So I just thank you that we have that ability. We're investing in our future so that we continue to remain successful as a county. I want to mention also that a lot of times, we get hung up on, I can't participate because I have problems. Well, I'm sure you do, because we all do. All of us have issues. I'd rather call them issues, because at our stature in life, they're just issues. We recognize there's never any emergencies. They're just barriers. How are we going to get through it? A good example is this weather storm that we had within the last 24 hours. If you were on your way home and it was closed off, did you just go, oh gosh, I can't get home, and you're stuck? No, you found another way. And I thank the United Way, because they're going to get it done with many or with few. but I like for it to be many. So again, cascade this message down to those folks in your sphere of your influence. But we don't have problems, because when you think about it, compared to who? Compared to the town that got burned away, that got burned up, your circumstances compared to them? Or how about those that got hit with tornadoes? How about the kids that we're helping out? How about the parents that can't provide for their kids and they got to look at their kids? What feeling do they have not being able to provide, maybe like the rest of us, the leaders that we have in Frederick County, like we can for our children? So when we say we have problems, the truth is we don't have any problem. We have issues, but we don't let that stop you from being part of your community and doing something great. I also want to point out, especially with me working with entry-level employees here at Frederick Health, a lot of times, people want to say, well, I have very little. And I try to encourage and let them know, no, we have much. We have much because there's that inner beauty that you do have. You have that love, joy, and peace. Think about it. Money can't buy you the peace. I mean, it'll buy you misery you can thoroughly enjoy, but it can't buy you peace. And you have this patience and kindness, these fruits or these attributes that we should be passing on to mankind. It kind of goes back to being a product of your environment. And if you're exhibiting these fruits on a regular basis, remember, our kids are watching us. They're going to end up the way that they see. And as I was talking about this inner beauty and this inspiring of life, everyone has an inner beauty and an inner ugly. But what are you showing on a daily basis? What are you, is it that inner beauty? Is it that smile that you give that person that's probably a little bit downtrodden on the inside, but they're smiling, they're trying to keep the game face on? Or is it a thank you card that you sent in the mail quietly and then that person receives it and it's, wow, what a difference did it make? You're actually inspiring life when you do that. The little things. See, it's not the great things. Again, if we can get everybody involved, we can do it. One person can give 100 or 10 people can give $10. Certainly you can come up with $10. And then that brings me to my point. A lot of times when we talk about giving, people want to tell you, I've given my last. And I always say, really? Please do not get caught telling me that, okay? Really? Really? You've given your last. That means you're never going to have money ever again, ever. No, we're gainfully employed. Just because, it might be a little tight until the next paycheck comes in. But let me ask you something. Can you just change the way that you're thinking a little bit? And I tell you what, put down that pizza, order one less pizza, and take that to do something different in somebody's life. You haven't given your last. You haven't given your last. So whose life can we change today? And then that person, because it was a positive thing, it goes on and on and on in a positive trend. Now I can say this, through stuffing the bus, which Frederick Health, we stuffed the bus. Man, that's great. Look at the kids that we're taking care of. And there's no telling what it would be if we didn't. Except here's what we can do. We could recognize the trend that it would be if we didn't do it. Remember, the kids are the future. If we don't have those kids, didn't get the supplies they need, how would the day turn out? And again, how about the parent that has a look at their child and knows that they can't make ends meet? Dr. Harris took time to talk to us about Alice, and that's something that we're working on in Frederick County. And I thank him for that, to get that message out, because that's an important message. Or how about no telling what would happen because we actually did stuff the bus? No telling how greatness, what kind of greatness will come from that. Maybe one of these kids from Frederick County will end up being the president of the United States one day, because we did stuff the bus and we gave them what they needed to meet their mission, impacting someone's life in a positive way. So as I'm closing, I just want to say, whose life can you change today and how? Well, let's recap real quick. Participate regardless of where you find yourself in life. Participate. If it's money, it's money. If it's time, it's time. But everybody can order one less pizza. So please, let's not talk about, I don't have the money. Support to impact your environment in a positive way. Remember, the kids are watching. They're going to be a product of their environment. I want us to rejoice in the qualities that are going to help mankind. That inner beauty that's actually going to really make a difference and inspire life. And because you're giving, don't ever make it a situation where you feel like you're giving your last. You're not. Between now and the time you're called to glory, you'll probably get another paycheck. Okay? So please, let's not use that as a reason for not giving. And then lastly, as a Marine, I want to say something. I love Frederick County and I love United Way. And I want to point out something. Let's not leave one person behind. Okay? Hopefully everybody heard me this morning. Thank you for all the leadership that we have this morning. And thank you for United Way for the program that you put together. Roger?
Thank you, Don. Good morning to you all. What an honor it has been to work side by side with Don Moody in this project here at Frederick Health. You can see his passion. You can feel his passion even through the video screen. So I pray that you feel it and it unites you to go a little bit more, a little bit deeper, and a little bit higher. I want to share, if you have been in our community for a day or 20 years or fortunate enough to even be born in our community, you know the relationship that the community has with the hospital. You know the different versions of the name that we have gone through over the years, but if you have been here any length of time, you know it only comes down to the hospital. And that's how it's referred to. And it's referred to as an entity, as a person, as a pulse, as something that you can feel. And we know people come through the doors as patients, as workers, as visitors, and they all have hearts and feelings and pulse. And we were able to capture some of that energy and unite in this project of Stuff the Bus. And it was a pleasure to be a part of that. I'm reminded of one of our early theologians, Martin Luther, who left us with a concept of our vocational calling, also with our social responsibility. We can be called, we can do a job, we can have a profession, we can have a career, we can have a business. But he reminds us that we have a social responsibility that we also have to live up to. I tried to live those words. I know over the years and months, sometimes it's tough to do. I encourage you to embody those tenets for your own of social responsibility and community responsibility. If it means uniting with United Way or partnering with some other organization, and I know United Way may not like me, but you know, our responsibility is to connect with our community. I encourage you, I implore you to do that. Finally, I want to leave you with these words from a sermon that was preached in 1953 by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that was entitled Accepting Responsibility for Your Actions. And in this sermon, and it wasn't a real lengthy sermon, in fact, he entitled it a sermon for the radio. But in his closing statement, he says this: our personal response is finally determining factors in our life. How we live our life, how we respond, that is our responsibility. I thank you for your time. I encourage you. Blessings.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was wonderful, and we're so appreciative of all the work that you've done for us with Stop the Bus and the campaign. It's truly been great. So I told you guys I'd pop back on here later today. Here I am for you. We're now going to be diving into a little bit more information about running a workplace campaign. Don and Reverend Wilmer talked about that, and I'm going to jump into a little bit more information here. First of all, I want to start with a fun fact. Did you know that for every dollar we receive at United Way of Frederick County, we turn that into $3.21 of critical community support, direct community impact? That means that if you're making a biweekly payroll contribution, you are tripling your impact every 2 weeks. Really is great. Even a $5 contribution per paycheck adds up to school supplies for 10 kindergarten students. Think about that. For those who want to have an even greater impact, as part of our Leaders United Leadership Giving level, less than $50 a paycheck adds up to 2 free credit workshops for 10 Alice households. Big impact, huge impact. Because we fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every person here in Frederick County, and we know that those are the building blocks for a good life, your support truly is changing people's lives. That makes running a workplace campaign a smart investment in a strong community, and we know that a strong community is key in a strong workforce. Next slide. So now that we've talked a little bit about the impact of workplace giving for our community, we can share the benefits that running a campaign has on your organization. As we've seen more than ever in the past year throughout this pandemic, employees want to see that their company that they work for cares about the community. Consumers want to see this as well, that the companies that they support care about the communities that they're in. You may have heard the famous Mr. Rogers quote about looking for the helpers when you're scared. Throughout this pandemic, that's truly what people have done. They've looked for companies that care about the community and care about giving back. Our community wants to see that these people are giving back. Running a workplace campaign is a simple way for companies to do this. It's a great set it and forget it way for employees to be able to contribute to their community, and for the companies to allow their employees to do this and show that they're giving back and that they care. Any amount, small or large, truly does give hope and provide help. Contributions make a difference by providing critical support to local families in need. So your employees can rest assured that their gift is helping their friends and neighbors right here in Frederick County. Along with knowing that contribution is providing local support, it's also important to be able to trust that the contributions are being raised and granted effectively. United Way, we are very honored to be known as good stewards in our community for those investments that you're making. It's not something that we take lightly, and we're very proud of that. So you know that when you're giving to United Way, that we have that good reputation of granting money effectively to local nonprofits that need it and to communities and Alice households that need it. In addition to making a difference in the community, running a campaign improves employee engagement and retention. It increases employee connections because the employee campaign managers are having a chance to connect with different departments they may not normally interact with, so they're making great connections throughout your company. And also the employees that are participating can bond over their shared passion for giving back. It also helps with employee appreciation if you can find ways to make your campaign fun, like throwing a pizza party for hitting participation goals, raffling off prizes, or even an extra paid day off that adds to your employee appreciation. It also helps to identify talent and help recognize your employees. For your employee campaign managers, leadership can see who's able to take on those extra projects, who's able to go that extra mile, handle additional responsibilities, and it gives you, the leaders in your organization, something to think about for later on when they need to know who some of their shining stars are. So for those of you that are looking to run a workplace campaign, we know that one of the keys to success is engaging, educating, and empowering your employee campaign managers. We will be holding a virtual briefing. Given COVID, we are making some virtual options here available for you. This will be for our new and our returning employee campaign managers, and we're going to be holding that on Friday, September 24th, coming up here in a couple of weeks from 11 to 12. You can register at tinyurl.com/ECMbrief21. That is going to be in the chat for you. And you'll also be receiving an invitation. Our ECMs will receive an invitation later on. During this briefing, we will be covering topics like what challenges are our community members facing? COVID is a big one, but there's others that you may not know of. How your organization can be united in recovery, and other resources that will help you run an effective and efficient campaign, whether your employees are in the office or if they're still working from home. We have options to help you with both. And after the virtual briefing, that's not the end of our assistance for you. We are here throughout your entire campaign to offer guidance, support. If you want to bounce any ideas off of us, we are here for you throughout the campaign. One other resource is our online campaign toolkit. With COVID, we have transitioned a lot of our support online for you. So it's on our website at uwfrederick.org/toolkit. There are some great things on there like sample wording for kickoff emails. There's thermometers to help gauge participation in your company, infographics on a quick way to see what we do here at United Way, tons of different resources for you that's all available online. So lots of different support for you throughout your campaign process. Next slide, please. And another great way to get your employees engaged in supporting the community is through volunteerism. Personally, taking action not only allows them to better understand the needs of our community, but it can also improve morale because they know that they are helping to fulfill those needs. People want to volunteer, but they sometimes just don't know how, especially right now with COVID. They may not know how to safely help and volunteer. So we have a wonderful volunteer opportunity coming up on October 1st. It's the first Friday of October. It's our Day of Action. This is something we host annually. In the past, it has been held as a community-wide volunteer project. So we've had anywhere from 500 to 800 volunteers that come together. It's one of the largest volunteer events in Frederick County. And we disperse those volunteers to nonprofits for project help throughout the community. With COVID, last year looked a little bit different. We held a donation drive where we collected desperately needed items for some of our local nonprofit partners. This year, we are planning a little bit of a hybrid model. We are still kind of evaluating that as COVID cases are rising. So it will be a little bit of a hybrid. We'll be sending some of our volunteers into the community, and we'll also be looking to host a donation drive again, since that was such a success and a safe way for people to be able to contribute to the community as well. So again, that date is Friday, October 1st. We hope that you will save the date for that. There is going to be a link in the chat. If you'd like to register a team, you can do that now. I will be your contact if you're registering a team. And if you also would like to sign up as a nonprofit partner, I know we've got some of our nonprofit partners here on the call today. If you would like to host a project, or if you would like to sign up for us to collect items again on your behalf, we'd be happy to do that as well. And I just want to give a big shout out to our sponsors for Day of Action: AstraZeneca, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and Wegmans. Been huge supporters of ours, and we're so appreciative of their commitment to helping the community. Now I would like to pass it off to Ken, who will be talking about some solutions that we've worked on the last year with United Way.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you for joining our team. We're so delighted to have you. What I hope to do is kind of bring it all home for the group that is so generous to spend your time for us. United Way is an important part of our community, and we really enjoy the opportunity to serve and to respond to the issues that are confronted in our community. And no issue has confronted our community in a very, very long time, more than the COVID pandemic. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about how we jumped in and helped, and how we were delighted to do so. First off, out of the blocks, the emergency relief campaign was kicked off with United Way with our outstanding funding partners, Osherman Family Foundation, Community Foundation of Frederick County, Delaplane Foundation, the Collard Foundation, the Helen J. Serini Foundation, the Women's Giving Circle. We all came together and put up almost $2 million in a total fund that that was sent out in a number of grants to the community. $300,000 was raised by United Way. Every penny of that was sent to the community and funded over 50 grants in our community. And that was just the part, that was the emergency response. And we were so delighted to be able to do that program. Next slide, please. The next thing we look at is, gosh, well, let's look at the challenges. And the challenges when we think about our Alice households, the challenges have been and historically have been and continue to be housing, education, and transportation. And we said, wow, how do we eliminate the barrier of transportation for our Alice households when it comes to vaccinations? So we worked for a while on the census effort, and we had this great group of nonprofits that came together to help get out the 2020 census. And we brought that group back together to rally behind vaccinations and the whole COVID situation. I'm delighted that this group was able to come together and work so effectively with the health department of bringing solutions to a massive problem in our community. United Way was able to get a grant from United Way Worldwide, $75,000 of free rides to Alice households and anybody else in our community who needed transportation to get a vaccine. And this has proven to be an important part of our strategy for this. And the health department has just done an amazing job as the call center for appointments and as well as scheduling rides for the vaccination. And that will continue to be a resource for the foreseeable future. We have enough money that this could sustain for quite some time. There you see the numbers. If you want to pass those along, I believe they are also put in the chat about the resources that are provided. Next slide, please. Finally, our ongoing strategy of the Prosperity Center, which actually pre-existed the pandemic, but when it comes to bringing solutions to Alice households, the Prosperity Center has become more important than ever before. We have converted this to a pathway to financial stability that essentially consists of two important items: a pathway to home ownership, which provides a number of programs that lead our Alice households to become homeowners. And we have had 25 graduates. We have 27 more in the queue for the pathways to home ownership. And we know that owning a home is an extraordinarily important aspect of getting out of an Alice situation. We know that our Alice households are often paying as much or less in mortgage than they are in rent, but instead they get that critical item of equity and lifelong earnings. We're so delighted to partner with Frederick County government on providing that program. And here you see pictured three of our graduates, Shina on the left, Shane in the middle, who is actually our Pathway to Transportation graduate. We were able to provide him a car for a very expensive but reliable and used car in partnership with Second Chances Garage. And in the upper right-hand corner with James Baker, who is our most recent graduate. We've got several more coming. It's a program that's available to Alice households throughout the county, and we're so delighted to bring that program to us. The Prosperity Center is growing, and we're just so happy about it. Before we wrap, there are several people I'd like to thank. First, our board of directors, thank you for your incredible support. We've recently welcomed new board members, Elizabeth DeRose, Eric Lowers Phillips, and Adam Kreischer and Shawn Dennison, who we heard from earlier. We are delighted to have you on the team. To my staff, thank you, David Bowsam, Joyce Kwamana-Poe, Latasha Adams, and Erin Lawson for your commitment to serving our community. Between the pandemic and switching to virtual and a tropical storm, Thank you so much for making this program possible and on time. Thanks a lot to our speakers, Mike, Stacey, Keith, Shawn, Danielle, Don, and Reverend Wilmer. Thank you so much for spending your time and dedicating your time with us today and for your service. To our sponsor, PNC Bank, you're amazing. Thank you so much. If you know someone whose company is not running a workplace campaign, please encourage them to give us a call. We'd like to speak with them about it. If you are an individual who doesn't have access to a workplace campaign and still like to support our work, we accept a lot of contributions directly, and that work goes directly to support our Prosperity Center. And if your employee campaign manager has changed and you are on a workplace campaign, please call Erin, and she will help you all, help you get that invitation. And finally, I want to thank our employee campaign managers. You all are the rock stars that make United Way and our activities possible. Thank you so much. We have a virtual briefing on September 24th. We look forward to seeing you all there. Finally, last reminder, on October 1st is our day of action. I think Reverend Wilmer and Don put it so well. Giving of yourself, not just in money, is incredibly important. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. We are united in recovery, and we hope that you are too. Thank you so much for your time today. We enjoyed seeing you and having you here. Thank you.